secondly, he tells us to look in. Look in. And I think this season has been a looking in, looking into into things that we're involved in. But he says, let us throw everything that hinders, throw off anything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us. And proper preparations. I remember, and I've said this and I've been challenged by it, at the beginning of 2020, I felt God say it's a season of release, and we began to preach season of release, and but I also, then we got locked up. Like lockdown happened 3 or 4 months later, and you're like, well, how was that a season of release? Well, actually, we have been released of a lot of things, and it really didn't play the way I intended or even thought. But I look back and say we have had to look in and deal with stuff. We've had to get rid of stuff. We've all, friends, been so busy doing things because it's what we do, and God has released us from some of those things. So we've had to look in. What are those things that are hindering us from running this race? And even going forward, I think even in this lockdown, and the pandemic and so on, maybe we've picked up some more things that we just need to throw off. And I feel like as I woke up this morning, there's some things maybe, just for yourself, challenge you to throw these things that are entangling us or holding us back. We need to make proper preparations for the now and for the future. I keep thinking, whenever I read this text, of that ill-fated Franklin expedition. In 1845, many of you know the story, Franklin sailed from England to find a passage across the Arctic Ocean. The crew loaded their 2 sailing ships with a whole lot of things they didn't need. 1,200 volume library, fine china, crystal goblets, a sterling silverware for each officer with his initials engraved on the handles. I mean, can you imagine that? Amazingly, each ship only took 12 days' supply of coal for their steam engines. The ships became trapped, you know the story, in vast frozen plains of ice, and after several months, unfortunately, Lord Franklin died. The men decided to trek to safety in small groups, but nobody survived. One of the heartbreaking stories was 2 officers pulled a large sled for more than 65 miles through treacherous ice. And when rescuers found their bodies, they discovered that the sled was filled with silverware from the table. These guys took the silverware from the table to try and survive what they were facing. Friends, we would say ludicrous, insane. But sometimes we can do that. We can put stuff on or hold on to things that we think are important that actually are going to hinder us. And so I read that story and say, man, I want to learn from that. I trust you do too. And even in the season, let's throw off the stuff that is not necessary. And let's come back to the things that matter most and to give our attention and our focus and our lives and our ministries to those things. That's what actually contributed to their death, is the stuff they didn't need. And so let's not waste our time on those things. But also the author encourages them to get rid of sins that easily entangles. Not just the things that we carry, but some of the sins. This refers to sins which cling to or distract or entangle or trip us up as a runner. It's the picture of a man trying to run a race while dressed in long flowing robes of the day and tripping over them. So whatever that means for you, my friends, please, let's throw it off. As we look back, we see these guys surrounding and cheering. They've run their race. They've proved God. Secondly, let's look in and deal with the stuff, the things that are not necessary, as well as deal with the sin that so easily entangles us. Get rid of it so we don't trip up in this incredibly exciting season that we're facing.